S2E11 of the Traditional Legends Podcast, the podcast series where we talk about the history behind myths and legends. I'm Brandy, and I am with John at Boxwood House in snowy Romney, West Virginia.
Snowy, yes.
Snowy.
Oh my God. And in today's episode, we'll be talking about the myths and legends of Maryland.
Maryland.
So,
Yep.
first of all, cryptids.
Yeah, it's our first.
January.
Well, yes, it's our first episode of the new year. It's our first all cryptids show.
Plus.
Of the season.
Plus, it's our first ever recorded show. Hi. So we're going to be putting this on our Podbean webcast, as well as we'll try to get it onto YouTube as well. So should be interesting, folks, to see what's going on.
Well, if y'all see me rolling around and having little difficulties, it's because I'm 5 feet tall and my feet don't reach the floor. So, woohoo!
Yeah,
super duper fun times.
So we are talking about Maryland,
our neighbor,
and the Snallygaster.
Mm-hmm. Here's the funny thing: I had actually never heard of it, and this actually goes back to the German immigrants.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I know you and we've investigated a couple places in Maryland.
Yeah, in Frederick area too. Yep.
Right. And one of the things that I found challenging investigating is the amount of German EVPs that we would get.
Oh, yeah. Especially around the Frederick area.
Yeah.
There was I can't remember off the top of my head where. It was the Schultz. I can't remember. Yeah. It's a museum in Frederick.
Right. And that was one of the places. I believe it was that one.
Schifferstadt.
Schifferstadt. Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's where it was. I was doing an EVP in the lobby, with one of our other investigators. And I don't remember, one of us sneezed while we were doing the EVP session. And when we played it back, as soon as we sneezed, the EVP went, Gesundheit. I'm like, holy cow. They were polite, but that's been one of the challenges is the language barrier, which is something that you don't think of, especially here in America. Doing paranormal investigations. Yeah, definitely. But back to the Snallygaster.
And our cat that's outside meowing right now.
Yes, that's Bear. So we've been in here for about half an hour now. And now that we're doing this, he decides, oh my God, Mommy, let me in.
I know. It's always when we're talking. It's always when we start talking.
100%.
That's like, excuse me, I'm not here and I need to get in the way. So, we can always open up the door, but he's going to have his furry butt all over the screen here. So.
And actually, you might see his furry butt. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But meanwhile, other creatures.
Snallygaster, So this thing is weird.
Yes.
So, think Jersey Devil with some weird freaking octopus-like head.
Okay, so I actually put it into AI image generator.
Yeah.
Dude, it was weird. It was like this metallic beak with all these sharp teeth, and it was this bird, and then there were octopus tentacles. It was so super weird. But it's also been compared to the chimera.
Ah, yes.
Of ancient Greek folklore. And so in the ancient Greek folklore, it's represented as a fire-breathing female. But it traditionally had a lion's head, a goat's body, and a serpent's tail. It's often portrayed as anything that is two creatures combined into one, and oftentimes a serpent. But it is from Frederick County, Maryland.
Yep.
So specifically in the areas of South Mountain and Middletown Valley. And that's funny. South Mountain is there bordering Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And so this, I think you're going to find interesting. Of course, it's comprised of German immigrants from the 1730s. So the early accounts, they called it a Schnellergeist. Schnellergeist, which would mean a quick ghost. And it's, over the years, it's been Americanized into Snallygaster.
Well, there's a lot of activity up around South Mountain too, as far as like paranormal activity, as far as possible. They even have I think they have an insane asylum up there, if I'm not mistaken, or like a sanctuary or something. Yeah, so
I did not know that.
There's a lot going on up there. Plus, you have Raven Rock, which is military related. So it's kind of like a NORAD style type thing.
Interesting.
In the mountains. So you have that, but you have a lot of activity right now in the Maryland area as far as the Snallygaster. But is it real?
Well, one, I do want to point this out. All those 7-pointed stars we see on people's barns through Maryland, that's actually to ward off the Snallygaster.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I had no idea. I thought it was just like some form of German folk art.
Or I thought it was like some Amish thing or
right. No.
Or like some farming thing.
It is to ward off
that is
things like the Snallygaster.
Cool.
Now, you're asking if it's real. So, there were a lot of accounts in 1909.
Okay.
All right. So much so that former President Teddy Roosevelt was going to call off his African safari trip so he could come to Maryland
and do another African safari trip
to search for the Snallygaster. I had no idea Roosevelt was into cryptids, but in his book...
No, he's just into hunting.
Well, here's the thing, though. He is an outdoorsman. Everybody knows that. He kind of had his... He's the one that started the national parks.
Yep.
Yep. So what I found really interesting... No, he did not personally come across it, but some say that he did believe in it.
Okay.
So he actually has a link to Bigfoot also.
Interesting. Well, I'm not surprised because all those cryptids normally do, and then it weeds into alien activity or extraterrestrial activity, and then it weeds into paranormal activity because some of these are cloaked.
And it's all very similar. So Teddy Roosevelt, in his book, The Wilderness Hunter, he relates a story that had impressed him. And this is what he said. Frontiersmen are not, as a rule, apt to be very suspicious or superstitious. They lead lives too hard and practical to have too little imagination in things spiritual and supernatural. I have heard but a few ghost stories while living on the frontier, and those few were of a perfectly commonplace and conventional type. But I once listened to a goblin story which rather impressed me. Oh. And the man that he spoke to was a mountain man of German heritage. He was German. And Teddy Roosevelt goes on to talk about how he believes that in this man's past, he naturally heard all these stories about goblins and monsters and things like that. And if y'all haven't read Grimm's fairy tales, like the real original Grimm's fairy tales, take a sneaky peek. See what's in there. Take a sneaky peek.
So nowadays, somebody came out and put together a museum on this. It's called the American Snallygaster Museum.
Yes, shout out to her.
Yeah.
I know she's had a little difficulty
what I've read is
recently.
she's a traveling nurse, I believe, but they said that they were on their website that they were putting something together as far as the location, and it was supposed to come out in December.
Fantastic.
So I haven't really seen too much about that.
This is actually how I first learned about the Snallygaster, because I follow her on Instagram. Okay. And great person. If you see her, just shout out.
I think her name's Susan, if I'm not mistaken.
Of course, I can't remember because I hear Snallygaster. So I'm not entirely sure what her first name is, but I know she wasn't on for a little while, kind of stepped back, and now I've been seeing a lot more of her on social media as far as
Yeah,
getting back up and running.
Let me see. Here we go.
See, this is what happens when everybody's neurodivergent within our crew. We start looking things up and going down these rabbit holes. And we think, oh, what about this? Well, what about this? What about this? And what's interesting is our next cryptid.
Yeah. Chessie.
Here we go.
Go figure.
Nessie, Champ. So how many river monsters, water monsters are we going to have? And here's the thing. River and water monsters.
I'm sorry.
Gods.
Sarah Cooper. That's her name. Sarah Cooper.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So I got it all good. Yeah. But anyway, Chessie. We have the Loch Ness monster of the Chesapeake Bay.
Right, and then you have Champ.
Yep, Champ up
in
Vermont.
Lake Champlain.
Yep.
Yeah. Then you have here I go. I forgot the one up in Pennsylvania.
Raystown
Ray.
Yeah.
Culturally, river gods and river serpents. It's across the globe. They're everywhere.
Exactly. Yep.
This is not something that's new. It's not something that is made up. But apparently Chessie lives in the center of the Chesapeake Bay. And one of the first sightings was in 1936.
Okay.
So apparently a military helicopter was flying over Bush River, which is a tidal estuary of Chesapeake Bay. And the crew claims that they saw something reptilian and unknown in the water from the helicopter.
Now the thought about that is, okay, we talked about this before with the interconnecting tunnels and everything like that.
Yep.
So, the thought of this could be, it's seen all over the world.
It is.
So it could be a deep sea creature that goes through the caverns and it comes out in different locations.
Or it could just be something that lives in these deep waters.
Yep. And just comes up every once in a blue moon.
Right. It's not just one. It's several different ones. And it's something that we just haven't found yet because either we lack the ability to go that deep into water. You watch these programs where they go in and they're like, oh, well, the cave, we can't go in there because we could get tangled. This could happen. Well, guess what? If you're not looking, you're not going to find it.
Exactly.
Now, in 1982, there was a video that was filmed by a Bob Frew that has apparently captured footage of the creature. And he was with several others, and they all state that they saw the same exact thing.
And when was that?
That was in 1982.
Okay.
There were actually a lot of sightings in the 1980s, primarily around the area of Kent Island.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I don't know. Again, maybe there's tunnels underneath the islands, underground cave, or underwater caves, things like that. I'm not really sure. Well, because of the popularity of Chessie, yeah, it's become a symbol of environmental awareness.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So, in 1985, the state proposed to protect Chessie.
I remember that.
Yeah. It spurred more environmental awareness. Now, here's the thing. Mr. Frew's footage was analyzed by scientists from the Smithsonian. They're like, it's an animal, but we can't tell you what it is.
Well, I know they did that. They did that in Loch Ness too.
Right.
The Nessie. They made her or him a I believe they named it a what do you call it?
Plesiosaur?
No, well, not a plesiosaur, but an endangered species. That's it, or something like that.
Well, I mean, that right now is the going theory.
Yeah.
Eels, plesiosaur, something like that.
Yeah.
I have not looked to see if sturgeon live in the bay. I haven't.
I'll tell you what. I know in the Delaware Bay, which is right there, it's interconnected. There are sturgeon the size of buses in the bay.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
this was told to me third party by my
a
father,
friend
who was friends with a diver that went down into the Delaware Bay, and he's like,
how scary would that be?
He's like, the visibility is zero, but you would see this huge creature just swim right by you that had characteristics of a sturgeon that was the size of.
It wasn't a sturgeon.
And he said it was the size of a SEPTA bus.
Okay.
So this is like a New York or Philadelphia style transit bus.
When did he dive?
Oh, this was back in probably the 70s and 80s.
What?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
And here's the thing, too. He said that the water was so murky you couldn't see.
Yeah.
So you don't know. He just knows he saw something really stinking big.
It was huge.
It was huge.
But he said his friend would go down into the Delaware a lot because they were cleaning it out and such.
Right.
But yeah,
then there you go again. The environmental, let's clean these waters. Let's find these sea serpents.
Oh yeah, well, it's right next to DuPont, so it was huge into chemicals and plastics and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, if you look at some of these very ancient maritime maps, there are actually areas on there that show various types of sea serpents.
Exactly.
And it's meant as a warning.
What is that? What is that one shark? I think it's a whale shark or something like that. That's,
right. Jeremy Wade caught one of those, I think.
Yeah, isn't it like several hundred
sucker
years
was
old?
Huge. Yes, several hundred years old and huge. And so many times scientists think that things have gone extinct. As a matter of fact, scientists believe the Komodo dragon was not real.
It's Godzilla.
It was well, it was a cryptid. It was a cryptid within the scientific community.
Yep.
And I believe it was the early 1900s. There's a military base nearby. Mm-hmm. And one of the men from the military base was like, okay, there's too many people saying that this thing exists. I'm going to go to this island and
check it out. Yeah.
He not only brought back pictures, he brought back a Komodo dragon. It was like, it's real. It's real. Look.
Yeah.
And that's what finally turned the tide, so to speak.
That's funny. So then we got Chessie swimming along, and then we got
in the lakes. Meanwhile, in the forest, we have
Goatman, which is seen all over the eastern seaboard.
Yeah.
So this guy's getting around, but the Goatman.
Yes.
It wasn't normally seen in the same area as a snallygaster.
Right, but it's always in the forest.
Yeah.
It's always in the forest. Top half is human, bottom half is goat. Most of the legends go back to the 1970s.
Okay.
What had happened, there were a lot of dogs, pet dogs that had gone missing or died or what have you. And it was blamed on the Goatman, which I feel really bad for the Goatman. Because once veterinarians looked at it, the injuries were much more consistent to being hit by a train.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I feel bad for puppies too. So that's where it comes from. Now, some versions of the legend get into the comic book Marvel DC universe here. So apparently there was a scientist by the name of Dr. Stephen Fletcher who worked at the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center. Now, he was doing unknown experiments involving goats when suddenly something went awry and it turned him into a half man, half goat creature.
Okay. I can see the Marvel universe coming out of that.
But again, the legends of Goatman really started picking up traction in the 1970s.
But that was around the same time that they saw that one in Maine.
Right. Exactly. That's what I was thinking of. But this was, as far as this part of the legend, something went awry. He turned it. This was also the time where people were starting in about the environment. He worked at an agricultural company doing weird experiments, things like that.
Gotcha.
Some people think that the Goatman was an eccentric old hermit who was known to roam the woods and could often be spotted alone at night walking around. Now, this being said, the snollygaster has been likened to the Greek creature, the chimera.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let me bring up the satyr and the fauns.
Yep.
Of Greek and Roman myth. So they are woodland deities. Most people associate the faun with like Mr. Tumnus from Narnia, the Chronicles of Narnia. Very kind, very helpful. Late period fauns are half man, half goat.
But let's just go back to your the whole a seed of truth lies in every legend.
Right.
So you have these Greek mythologies coming across with satyrs and fauns. It could be something that was genetically altered, or it could be something that did happen, that somebody had, complete fur from the waist down.
Okay.
That they could attribute to the goat, and they're like, oh, it's a goat man.
It could be somebody wearing fur. You don't know. But
exactly.
What's really funny, in early legends, before they started morphing together, they were both just naked men. Lustful naked men.
With horns.
Yeah, so anyway.
Horny toes.
Yes, well, that's exactly what it was. And then it began to evolve. You have the god Pan, the god Dionysus, but then you start moving into those legends start going into Europe. And you have to stop and think that these are heavily forested regions.
Yeah.
You don't know who's living up in the mountains or in the forest.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many legends surrounding forest, And then, of course, naturally, as society begins the push toward Christianity, the quintessential satanic look is the satyr, the faun, things like
definitely.
that. The pagan horned god. So you have a lot of superstition, a lot of religious overtones and things like that have really taken over. And then as people came to America, but I have to wonder, are these creatures real? There's still so much that we haven't investigated.
You got so much mythology and so much, and then you got to think outside the box. You got to think outside the box and go, there's no such thing as time. So these dimensional creatures could be coming through, because you're talking about fairies, you're talking about the fae, you're talking about goblins, you're talking about all this other stuff. Why not lump in a satyr with them?
Right, a satyr and a faun. Yep. And here's the thing: okay, look, I know it's a show, people. I know it's a show. Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Yeah.
One of the most recent ones. They were on a train and they look out and they saw centaurs.
Yep.
The person that's watching out for him, half goat, half human. And they said that he says at one point, humans and their kind were friends.
Exactly. So why not, in the same realm of the fae, the same realm of everything from, these Indian legends, these American Indian legends, these European legends.
And you just touched on something. I was looking at Native American legends, and the Oki was a god that, now again, going into the Christian theology, they didn't understand the multi-deity pantheon of other cultures. And so they regarded it as an evil deity. But basically what people would do, they would pray to it, to this god, to protect them from harm, things like that. They would leave offerings. And some have attributed the Oki as an early version of the Dogman because it's related that it's a shapeshifter. Now, again, I would have to go down a serious rabbit hole.
Well, even that in the Wendigo, you get the Wendigo
skinwalkers,
Native American skinwalkers. Yeah.
Right. And these are things I don't know enough about, and I would have to go down a serious rabbit hole. But here's all these different cultures having the same exact type of being that lives in a heavily forested area. Gee, wonder why Raven Rock is where it's at.
Yeah, exactly. It could be possibly something like that as far as even state land or federal land.
Because that's one of the newest conspiracy theories. Military and state land that is blocked off to citizen entry is actually safe zones for these creatures.
Yeah.
Whether it's Bigfoot or a fawn or, what have you.
It's pretty wild. Pretty wild to think about it.
Keep an open mind.
Yeah.
Next time you go camping, think about it. Let us know. Tell us.
So with that said, we're wrapping up.
We are wrapping up our first.
Yeah.
Our first.
Well, no, we did a podcast.
Nope.
No, we didn't. So this is our first this year.
Our first podcast of this year and our first podcast.
And hopefully you guys enjoyed the video presentation as well, seeing our wonderful faces, and a lots more to come. You know what? I forgot to change the episode number. We're on episode
2.11.
11, okay.
11, yeah.
So it says 5 on the recording, folks, but it's actually 11. So
what?
I just put in an episode number just for that sake. But
you know what? There's going to be glitches. There's going to be a learning curve.
It's our first time, so please bear with us. But episode 11. Folks.
Episode 11, yes.
Fantastic.
And next week, I get to do it this time.
Do it.
We will be talking about our adopted home state of West Virginia.
Really cool stuff. Meaning,
West Virginia's awesome.
You got the what do you call it? The starts with an
Flatwoods.
S. The Flatwoods
monster.
Flatwoods monster.
Aliens.
Yep.
You got Mothy.
Yep. Mothman.
Giants of West Virginia. You have giants.
Yeah, all good stuff here.
Yeah, so we have a lot of super awesome stuff here. That's why I love West Virginia.
It starts with an S because that's where it's located. Where's that located? Sutton. There you go. Sutton, West Virginia.
Okay. You're thinking of Sutton. Yeah, that's where the Bigfoot Museum is.
Bigfoot Museum and the Flatwoods Monster.
If you want any advance of that, check out our blog. I actually did blog about it when we went not last year, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 summers ago, Yep. So long.
All right. So, as always, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to or follow this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And now on YouTube.
So it's a pleasure. I'm John.
I'm Brandy.
Have a good night and have hopefully a warmer place than we're at right now.
Think warm thoughts.